Okay, so here we go. One of the reasons why we change equations to standard form is for the purposes of graphing, or discovering what the zeros and the roots are. The x-intercept, the y-intercept. So on page 71, in example number 4, use intercepts to graph a line. Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of the graph 2x minus 3y plus 8 equals 0. Then graph the equation. We write that down. 2x minus 3y plus 8 equals 0. So this isn't exactly in standard form yet because the 8 is over here with the x and the y. We're going to move it to the other side. Minus 8, 2x minus 3y equals negative 8. X-intercept, y-intercept. The x-intercept is where your graph will cross the x-axis. If you have something crossing the x-axis, the point where it crosses, y equals 0. Likewise, when you're crossing the y-axis, the y-intercept, the point where your graph crosses the y-intercept, x will equal 0. All you need to do is find the number that goes here, the number that goes here. How do you do that? Well, when you're looking for your x-intercept, you set y equal to 0. Here's a y. We'll make it 0. So now we have 2x minus 3 times 0 equals negative 8. Here's some math to do. 3 times 0 equals 0. 2x minus 0 equals negative 8. Since we're subtracting nothing, we can just leave that part of it off. 2x equals negative 8. Now what? Divide both sides by 2. So x equals negative 4. Here's where you need an x, negative 4. So to get the x-intercept, we took the y out, replaced it with 0, because if it's the x-intercept, y equals 0, and then we just simplify it. Now we're going to start all over with the same standard form equation. This time we're going to do the y-intercept. If it's the y-intercept, x equals 0. So right here where this x is, we need to replace it with 0. So 2 times 0 minus 3y equals negative 8. Now all of a sudden there's some math to do. 2 times 0 is 0. Minus 3y equals negative 8. Since we're adding 0, we're adding nothing. And if we're adding nothing, we can just leave it off. Negative 3y equals negative 8. Divide both sides by negative 3. Y equals 2 2/3. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 2 2/3. So what's the big deal about this anyway? Well, here's the big deal. This makes it easy to graph. I need to plot a point for the x-intercept. That means it's going to be on the x-axis and it's going to be at negative 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Now I'm going to plot this y-intercept. It's the y-intercept, so it's on the y-axis at 2 2/3. 1, 2, 3. So it's not quite 3. And once I have 2 points, I can draw my line. So if we go back and talk about how did we get to here. First thing that we had to do is make sure that in our equation, the x and the y, and only the x and the y, were on one side of the equal sign. So we had to move that 8 to the other side. Then, one at a time, we set either the x or either the y equal to 0. And we solved those to get the intercepts. After we got the 2 intercepts, we plotted those on our graph, and then we drew our line. There's a shorter version of this. Here's what's going on, but in the shorter version of this, you get to leave some steps out. And it goes like this. Once you have your equation in standard form, 2x minus 3y equals negative 8. Just like we've done on so many things already this year, we're going to make two equations out of this one. It doesn't matter which one you do first because you're going to do both of them. Put your finger over one of the terms and write down what's left. Negative 3y equals negative 8. There's one equation. Are we watching? Yes. Lenny, you need paper, pencil. I believe your book is under one of your desks here. We got this. We're going to solve it in just a moment. So let's go ahead and write our other equation. We get it by covering up the other term and writing down exactly what's left. 2x equals negative 8. Now, usually the only thing that's left is just division. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Y equals 2 2/3. X equals negative 4. Go to the Y number line and you make a point at 2 2/3 on the Y number line. Go to the X number line, you make a point at negative 4 on the X number line, and then you connect them with a line. Much shorter, but here is exactly what you're doing. Alright, you need to show your work, and I don't care if you do it this way or if you do it this way. I don't care. I would do it this way. That's just me. But either way, this is the way your work should look. Your assignment is, you're going to add to what you had yesterday. I found my glasses. Number 35 through 40 on page 72. Yep, 35 through 40.
Even and odd?
Yep, that's just 35 through 40 on page 72. Now they didn't make it easy for you. You're going to have to do some work on some of them. On number 35, you need to get the X's and the Y's to the same side. On number 39, you're going to have to get rid of the fractions. And the same thing on number 40.
More page number?
72. No. All of them. 35 through 40. That's just 6. Let me point out this one thing that it said about standard form. It said that A, B, and C are integers with the greatest common factor of 1. That means if you can, like on number 10 right here, on page 71, here the greatest factor of all three terms is not 1, because you can divide a 4 out of every single term. So this is actually 3y equals x plus 2. So you may have to do that. You will have to do that on some of them in your assignment.
Isn't 35 already a second to that form?
You need it in standard form.
Huh?
We need it in the standard form.
So that, isn't that just the one we put on?
Yep.